Kaidence Evans was just 6 weeks old on January 23rd, 2014, when she died. And she died of horrible, violent injuries. Use your common sense in this. This is something you as jurors can think of yourselves. And bring that common sense and use it all the way through this trial, because these injuries I submit to you, we will show are a spectrum of injuries. Not just one or two, but multiple injuries. And they can't be considered one at a time, even though we have to explain them one at a time. They have to be considered as a whole. And when he does that, he will testify and tell you how there were severe subdural hematomas, which are basically bruises on the inside of the brain, underneath the scalp, not just the scalp, but the skull within the brain. And he'll testify how those bruises occur. They don't occur necessarily by striking someone in the head, just by itself. That bruising, which is throughout the head, starting at the top of the head, moving all the way back to the base of the skull, all the way along the brain. That bruising is so severe that that's what causes the baby to die. And it's commonly heard, or commonly called, as people have heard it before, a shaken baby case, or an abusive head trauma case. And the doctor will testify how that abusive head trauma occurs. Once again, it's a violent act that causes this to occur. It is not an accident. You'll compare it to a bad car wreck. Of course, this baby wasn't in a bad car wreck. Once again, let's go back to the spectrum of injuries. Once again, you can't take this one at a time, because if we took it one at a time, maybe you can try to explain it. Well, you know, the head injury, that was from the fall from the bed, not on the head. And then you might say, well, the brain injuries, maybe they could have occurred some other time prior to this, and he just didn't know. Those sorts of things, I ask you that each time you hear an explanation that just explains one aspect of it, I want you to think of the whole, the entire spectrum that we're looking at, because as the pathologist will testify, you can't get out of this entire spectrum of injuries. Because we might be able to explain a little bit, or this one may be possible this way, or possible that way, but when you put them all together, it comes down to one thing, and it comes down to abuse. It comes down to a violent abuse against this child.